the things that we learned in those years of infertility, like the patience of like just waiting on God, figuring it out, like trusting the timing, like trusting his timing, like his delay is not his denial, those sorts of things. We needed those lessons. Yeah.
Okay, let's replay that.
We needed to learn the delay is not denial. Like sometimes it could be because he's, telling you don't do this thing, but he gave us that promise, and so the delay looks like, oh well, then maybe he's not good, maybe he changed his mind. Yeah. It's like, no, the Lord doesn't, revoke his promises.
Incredible opportunity and privilege to be with some really amazing ladies. The reason why I felt like I had this, that the Lord just put this on my heart is I had several dear friends that have gone through some really tough things, and I asked my plethora of incredible ladies that have gone through some really tough stuff to share their testimony. My dog is going to be part of this. He is our emotional support. Just so you know, moms, we're going to be talking about some pretty sensitive topics on this podcast. So, like I said, some of these ladies have gone through some pretty tough stuff. So if you have sensitive ears, I would go ahead and caution you to maybe reconsider watching this by yourself. Also, trigger warnings. So we're going to be talking about infant loss, infertility, adoption, and when being like a birth mom is not an option. I was trying to rhyme, but that didn't work. But each one of these ladies has their own unique testimony, and I have reached out to them, and they've so graciously decided to share their story. So without further ado, ladies, if you will introduce yourself, we'll start with my friend over here.
I'm Natalie Roman, and I have gone through IVF.
I was like, oh, that's what we're going to do. I'm Casey, and I have 3 adopted daughters.
I'm Victoria, and I went through miscarriage.
Yep. And I'm, which camera are we supposed to look at?
Any of them.
Okay.
Any of them. It's fine.
Okay. So I'm Neliza, and I experienced a late-term infant loss.
Yeah. So I just want to start with if you guys will just share your testimony of how you came to know the Lord. I think without a shadow of a doubt, I wouldn't know how to walk through any of these difficulties or challenges without the Lord's comfort. So if you would please share with us how you came to know the Lord. Okay, sorry, my dog has some fertility. He has some fertility desires. Please forgive him. He's setting the tone. Okay. All right, let's talk about Jesus. Okay, so Natalie, would you like to start?
Yeah. So I kind of grew up in the church. My parents introduced me to the Lord at a very young age. So that idea of who Jesus was, and being in the church and growing up with a solid foundation of my parents of faith really was fundamental. It wasn't until that I was more in my teen years, 14, that I really found out what it meant to truly have a relationship with the Lord and what that looked like. But I can't. It's really hard when you grow up in the church and you have parents that educate you and they have that solid foundation. It's hard to kind of pinpoint like, oh, this is the exact moment.
Yeah. For sure.
But when I realized that, like, looking back when I was 14, that really came to light of like, okay, this is what a relationship with the Lord looks like. This is how that intimate relationship with the Lord looks like. And from then it's just kind of grown and from there.
Solidified.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
I didn't grow up in church. My grandma would take us, like, if we spent the night on a Saturday, we'd go to church with her on Sunday, but didn't learn anything about it. And then I had a friend that I met the very first day of 6th grade, and we became best friends. Had no idea that she went to church and, like, was a believer in Jesus or anything until 8th grade. Our church and the church we go to now and a couple of other churches put on, like, a youth kind of like revival sort of thing, sort of like a tiny summer encounter, and it was at the high school, so it was for junior high and high school. And she was like, we're doing this thing, like, you should just come with us. And I was like, all right, whatever. And by the end of the service, they were like, if you want to accept Jesus, like,
and stand up.
I was 13.
Yeah, okay.
And literally, I think that was like my first encounter with the Holy Spirit, because there was just like that feeling like you have to stand up and you have to walk to the front. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going. And then it was just like, oh, I just gave my life to Jesus. Wow. Okay, cool. And then started going to church with her a couple weeks later, and it's been 20
It's been bliss ever since.
Yeah. It's been good. You brought comfort.
You brought comfort.
My story is about the same as Natalie's. I grew up in church. My parents took us to church every Sunday. We were there every time the doors were open. I actually grew up with majority of y'all.
Yeah. She was in my wedding. Victoria was in my wedding.
She was in mine.
I was in hers, yes.
We've known each other, and then I've actually known Natalie since we were like 4.
Yeah.
We were in pre-K Sunday school together. But I probably didn't really click for me, I guess, per se. Or it didn't really become my own until maybe late junior high, high school. And then since then, it's been, because of course I got saved when I was like 5.
Right.
But it didn't really click and have like an actual relationship, intimate, until maybe junior high, high school. And then from there, it's been the same. I mean, like, growing with him since then.
But pretty solid since then, yeah.
I mean, we've had our moments, but yeah. That's what it is.
It's a relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
You go
It's
through
good.
it.
That's
Yeah.
good.
That's awesome. Well, I hate to be monotonous, but very similar story. Grew up in the church also.
I'm the only heathen.
No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Can I just like ditto?
Yeah, no.
But pretty much, I mean, the same. Grew up in the church. It's really hard to like pinpoint the moment. Honestly, my mom has told me, like, she was like, one time we were watching one of those, revival shows or something on TV, and she was like, you're just there crying, and I was like, do you want to know Jesus? And I was like, yeah. I don't remember it. So it's like, but I guess that was the moment, but and I remember just always having amazing encounters with the Holy Spirit growing up through high school, through junior high. I strayed in college, so I would say like when I like was like done with the past and actually plugged in, was like serious about my walk with him, was probably not till I was like 20, in my 20s.
Same.
Like,
Yeah, same.
Like grew up knowing better.
Yeah.
But not walking that out. And so yeah, it would have to be like I was probably like 21, 22. Whenever.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like we've all at least had that foundation, minus. But I will say, as you guys are reflecting on what you're getting ready to talk about, I want to keep reiterating just how important it is to have that foundation, or even community of people that are going to point you in the right direction. Because, I mean, like I said, I haven't been through that, but just knowing and understanding just how much we need the Lord's peace. Because the scripture that I know I shared with you, whenever it happened, the only thing that I could say, because what do you say? Is that the Lord is near the brokenhearted. And so I know that that's one that resonates with a lot of people, but truly understanding what that means. So I'd like to start first with Casey. I think if you don't mind just sharing your journey of what that looked like, and maybe some of the hiccups or hang-ups that you got through and how the Lord led you through that.
Yeah. So I knew as a teenager, like I was going to be a mom. Like the Lord spoke that over my life really early. And then my husband was like, I'm going to be a dad. Like that's just part of who I am. And so we got into marriage very early. We were married at 19 and 20. And we were like, we have to wait a year. Like, we got to give ourselves at least a year.
That's what everybody tells you.
And then, like, 6 months later, we're like, we really want a kid. But we had, like, a 1-bedroom apartment. That's not happening.
Yeah.
And so my dream was always, like, by 24, I wanted to be a mom. Because that's the age difference between me and my mom. And I was like, that's a good fit. I don't know. It's just, like, the desire of my heart is to have a kid by 24. And, like, 22 came, still weren't pregnant. 23 came, still weren't pregnant. 24 came. And I was like, okay, let's go see a doctor. And he was like, I think you have PCOS. And I was like, probably. My mom has it too. And she had struggled, like, after she had me, she had a miscarriage. And then when she got pregnant with my sister, lost an ovary in delivery. And so was basically told, like, you're never going to have kids again. Like, love the 2 that you have. And then
Clark.
And then my brother showed up
Which is
10
her
years
twin.
later.
That is her twin.
So there was always like this, I understood like infertility and loss and all of those things, but just didn't think it would be my story too. And then they were like, yeah, you have PCOS, so it's going to be a little bit harder. We're going to give you this pill that should make you ovulate. And my mom was like, that's what I took and had your sister first try. I'm like, cool. Second try, third try, like every month. And they were like, yeah, you don't ovulate. And so my next step would be like IVF or something like that. And we weren't financially in a place to be able to pursue anything. And so we're like, okay, like if the Lord wants us to be parents, then we have to figure out how that's going to look based on him. And it was like, do we go down that road? Do we have medical intervention? Like, what do we do? And I remember having a moment where I was like, I know the Lord says we're going to be parents, but does he necessarily say that I'm going to be pregnant? Like, I'm going to be a parent. That's the end goal. How do we get there? And right at the same time, through Mary Kay, of all things, something came out of that. We met 2 different families, and one was in the process of adopting their daughter from a couple that they knew from church that couldn't care for her. And then another couple had adopted their daughter through foster care. And it was just crazy, like, the way the Lord put both of those families in our lives at the exact same time, because my husband was like, I don't know about adoption, like, that's kind of weird, like, I want a kid of my own, which is such a weird phrase.
No, you say, I just pause for a second, because for somebody that's walking through that, I know it's easy for us to see hindsight, like, oh yeah, I saw God in that.
Yeah.
In the moment, was there anything that was a confirmation, like, wow, God, okay, you're, like, leading us in this direction, thank you for bringing these people, or was it just kind of like, oh, well, this is convenient, this is going to work out great?
I think for me it was, because I always had, like, a heart for adoption. I just didn't think that would be, like, our first option. It was kind of like eventually, like, I would love to adopt a kid. My uncles adopted, like, I grew up knowing people that were adopted, like, there's just, like, a heart for it. But knowing that he really wasn't, like, focused on that, I was like, okay, maybe that's not really how this is going to go. And so seeing us become friends with these 2 couples, I was like, I see what you're doing. Okay. And so it was like, I had to take the back seat though and not be like, see how cool it is? Like, they're normal, their kids are normal. I was just like, all right, we're going to, I don't know why he was against it, but I wasn't, you know. And so just kind of left it. And then one day they, like, the couple that we knew that adopted through foster care shared that their agency was having a, like, info meeting. And I was like, what if we go? I'm like, maybe we go. And he was like, all right, fine, let's go. And we get to the meeting, and it's like they're trying to deter people from being foster parents at all costs.
Oh, wow.
Because there's so many people that want to abuse the system. And so they just don't even want to deal with that from the get-go. It's like, listen, it's going to be hard. There's a process, like all this stuff. And we had the couple next to us that was like, when do you get your first check? And I'm like, that's what we're trying to do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow, that's cool.
it was great.
Wow.
So they gave us like a packet, and it has this list, like a checklist of like, these are all the things you have to do just to get your foster license. And it's lettered like A, B, C, and it goes all the way down to like the MM. So it gets A, B, B, like it's long.
Wow.
And we're leaving, and I'm just like, oh, that was horrible. Like, what are we going to do now? And he was
He's
like,
really excited about adopting now.
he says, let's stop at Starbucks in Pearland on the way home and fill out the paperwork.
Whoa.
And I was like, okay. And so I have a picture of us sitting at
Oh my
Starbucks,
gosh,
like filling
wow.
everything out,
wow.
taking it back the next day. And that was in March. We had our license in June. Like, we were like,
Wow.
let's get this done. And that was with taking a month off because we went on vacation and messed up the whole schedule. So it was like...
Now, looking back, if you were to talk to someone that may be contemplating that, like in your situation, perfect situation, you have a spouse that's really excited about it, and the other spouse that's like, absolutely not, it's not for me.
Yeah.
Like, I can speak to that because Michael wants another kid. We're 4 and no more. Like, we are done. I am perfectly happy, still trying to mend my body the way that it is, bless the Lord, but Chick-fil-A does its job too. But talking through that with someone that may be feeling that struggle, looking back, is there something that you would have told yourself, wait, ask, pray, what, why, how?
Yeah.
I mean, just looking back, what would you tell yourself? How many years ago has this been now?
11. Yeah. I think looking back, our story has always been marked by a waiting period. Like, there's always been, like, the wilderness. Like, there's a season of, like, the Lord's promise and then waiting for it. And so I think if I could just remind myself back then, like, this is going to be one of those seasons. Because I knew going into it, like, this could take a while, like, it could be a process. And so I kind of had that foundation in the back of my mind. But I think looking back now, I see how much of a, like, waiting time that was. And so just the patience and, like, the things that we learned in those years of infertility, like, the patience of, like, just waiting on God, figuring it out, like, trusting the timing, like trusting his timing, like his delay is not his denial, those sorts of things. We needed those lessons.
Okay, let's replay that.
We needed to learn the delay is not denial. Like sometimes it could be because he's, you know, telling you don't do this thing, but he gave us that promise. And so the delay looks like, oh, well, then maybe he's not good. Maybe he changed his mind. And it's like, no, the Lord doesn't, you know, revoke his promises. But the things we learned about each other, about ourselves, about like who we were as a family without children and going into it, like all of those things I wish I would have been keeping a better account of. Because looking back now, I'm like, oh, those like 7-8 years of infertility, all the struggles we went through, now we're dealing with that, but as parents. And it's like, what did I learn about it then, you know? And so I wish I could have just told myself, like, this hard spot, like the thing that the Lord is producing in you is going to be useful later. Like it's teaching you something for the next thing that's coming. And I wish I would have, you know, taken that into account a little bit more.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, hindsight's 20/20. So
well, I mean, but that's the thing is like whenever you're in it, you never see a way out.
Yeah.
And someone may be stuck in that denial or the no,
delay.
It's not happening. The delay. Yeah. And I just, my heart is, you know, for anybody that's thinking or contemplating on the idea of adoption, I love that you said that. I can't even say it. What did you say?
Delay is not denial.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times I know I want it now. Like I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like I want it right now, especially when it comes to feeling like, you know, that's such a great opportunity to be a mom. I think in my mind, just outside of what, you know, I've gone through, like why me? You know, like why me? Did you ever go through any of that or did you ever?
Yeah, I mean, obviously like when you're going through that and you get like an invite to someone's baby shower and they weren't even trying, you're like, okay. There's still that struggle, even though you know in your head and your heart, like the Lord is doing something different with us. Like this is not my journey and you're happy for them. There's still that small part of you that grieves the life that you expected that you're not stepping into. And I think it's healthy to recognize that and go like, okay, I'm feeling some type of way about this. But when we get stuck in that grief and we don't give it to the Lord, that's when it's unhealthy.
Yeah.
It's okay to grieve the unmet expectation as long as you're grieving it and giving it to God and saying, do something with this.
Yeah.
Because he can handle that. And so I think eventually I did get to a point where I would, you know, get the invite and be like, okay, God, like, I'm happy for them. You know, it took time.
Yeah.
And there's still, this is what's wild, is like, we've had our kids for 10 plus years.
Oh, yeah, so fast forward, don't fast forward, sorry, I'm not, that sounded so hard. Like, hurry up, get through yours. No, I mean, sorry, that was rude. Tell, like, I want you to come back to that.
Yeah.
But, how did you get your girls?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that, like, even now, all these years later, the enemy still tries to bring that up. He still tries to, like, push that. And it comes in the weirdest ways. It comes in other people saying, like, well, like, how do you feel that you've never had a kid of your own? And I'm like, I do. Listen, they act way too much like me and my husband to not be our kids. But
our church just had a Thrive conference, and Casey actually, they had a panel. And Casey actually shared, you shared something that stuck with me, and it was, of course now I can't remember, but it stuck with me because I was like, wow, I didn't even think of it that way. Something along the lines of, good Lord, I can't remember.
Don't ask me to remember.
No, but you were talking about, and it was so freeing. It was almost like someone would. Oh, you were talking about how the girls, that's what it was. Something that should have been DNA was not DNA. Yeah. And what I thought about in that moment was the kindness of the Lord that just brought in an aspect of what you may have thought or what wouldn't have been yours. And he's just like, okay, because you specifically mentioned allergies.
Yeah.
Like, that one of them has the same allergies as you.
Yeah.
And then the personality and all of that. But
Yeah.
I thought even in that, because of the comment that you made, they are my own. And whenever you said, it's so sad that you've never had kids of your own, and you immediately were like, they are my own.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really heavy. Like, why is that something that like we have to have so badly as women? It's like, this is my own, like, mama bear. And I feel like that's a lot of culture. And I said this before we came in here, something that Meredith King said, and yes, I just name drop because she's a fantastic human being. But she said something that really impacted me, because I'm actually going through a struggle right now with motherhood. No, I'm not trying to get pregnant. Don't start praying for me. But she said motherhood is not your highest calling. And I think a lot of times we have this idea or this picture of what it's supposed to be. And when Meredith said that, it reminded me of something that I had heard, and that was our highest calling, obviously, is to be, and I point to Nay because she reiterates that. I can't wait to get to Nay's story. Nay's a worshiper. We're on the same worship team, but Nay worships in a way that's very, very different than me, and it's inspired me. But our highest calling is to be a lover of the Lord and a follower of the Lord. And then our second calling, if we have the precious opportunity to be a wife, is to be the helpmate of our husband. And then, of course, family comes later. And Casey said something that you said it, and I caught it. When you get married, children are the fruit of that union. Children don't make you family. So if you're stuck because you and your husband don't have a family, you are a family. And that was something that Casey said that was very key. And I want to point that out and just make sure that you understand. You are a family. You're a unit. Children are a heritage and a fruit of that family unit. So you're girls.
Yeah. So I think in the process of getting the license and everything, I just had to remind myself, like, if this is what the Lord has called us to, He's going to make the way for everything. And I was going to say the biggest, like the hardest part of going through anything is everybody else. Like, you can have your faith rock solid, and it's the other people that will be like, well, what about this? Or like, why are you doing that? Or have you know, and it's just like people will say things. So you have to protect your heart and your mind from the comments of everybody else. So that's my biggest piece of advice for anything.
Bunch of Karens.
And it's not even, like, some of them just mean it in the most loving way possible.
True,
because
that's
it's not an experience they've ever gone through, and they'll question in a way that just sounds so
rude,
condescending, or like, it's just, anyway. So we just were like, okay, if the Lord is telling us to do this, then He's going to make it work out. And the wildest thing about foster care and adoption is you fill out, I call it the menu. It's basically a sheet, like it's papers of like, what kind of kid do you want? It's build a kid. And it's the most, it starts off with like basics, like you want a boy, do you want a girl, age range, all that sort of stuff. But then it gets into like questions like, how would you feel if the child's biological parents never finished college? It's weird. Anyway, so we fill all of that out, and then we're just like, Lord, like, whatever you do with this. But the one thing that, so JD was like, I want a daughter first. Like, I feel like we just need a daughter. And I was like, cool. Of course we wanted a baby, but we knew that was not always an option. The day we got our license, I was in Dallas at a conference. I get a text message that our license was approved. It's in the mail. Haven't even gotten the piece of paper yet. An hour later, I get a call. Hey, we've got a little boy at the hospital. He needs a home. And I'm like, first of all, I'm not at home. And second of all, we said, girl, why are you already calling me about a boy? And they're like, he's 7. He's been abused. He has a broken arm, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
oh, that's another podcast.
Right out of the gate. And so it was so hard, but I was glad that first call was so hard, because it was like reminding me of like, the Lord will give you peace when it's the right one. Like, there will be just something different. And we got probably like 30 calls. Wow. Like every other day it was just, we've got this kid. And every time it was just like that. No, like I just, no. And then one night, I mean, literally like, it was like 8:30 at night, and JD's in New Orleans for work. And I get a text message from our social worker, and she's like, hey, we have an emergency placement, which usually emergency placement means like it's a temporary situation. Like they're trying to find family, or they think that the parents are going to get their act together like really quickly and take the kid back. And we had always said no to that sort of situation. They were like, but we have two sisters. They need an emergency placement. They're 1 and 2, or she said a couple months and 1, and I was like, that math doesn't math, but whatever. And there was just this, like, the Holy Spirit was like, this is the one.
Wow.
And I'm like, JD's not home. Like, we said no emergency placement. Like, none of this looks like what it was supposed to look like.
Wow.
And so I'm, like, texting the lady. I'm like, how fast do they need somebody? We only have 1 crib. Like, what do I do? And I call him, and he's like, I think these are the ones, too. Like, he got back to his hotel, had just showered, and he's like, I'm putting my clothes back on. I'm going to go back out to the shipyard. I'm going to finish this boat, and then I'm going to just drive home. And I was like, okay. And so
gonna be parents.
it was like, I guess this is what we're doing. So I call my mom. I'm like, fun fact, they're at their anniversary dinner. They're at a restaurant.
Parents.
Yes. And I call, and I'm like, we might be getting 2 babies tonight. And my mom just starts bawling in the restaurant. She said everyone thought that, like, my dad had, like, dumped her or something. And she's, like, crying, and they're, like, giving him the stink eye. And she's just like, so I'm like, I don't know if they're coming tonight or tomorrow. I don't know, like, for panicking. So they finally, like, we're going to bring them tomorrow. Like, we'll keep them for the night. And so the next morning we just got up, went and bought another crib, like, all the things. And JD ended up not being able to come home at all that day. So he wasn't there when they delivered them, like, when they brought him to our house. So it's just me and my mom and an 8-month-old and
What were you, like, what were you
1-year-old.
thinking?
It was just so fast. It was just like, okay, this is it. Like, let's prepare. Let's go.
And you just immediately went into mom mode.
Yeah, basically. And I'm, like, texting her, and I'm like, what sizes do they wear? What do they need? Do we need diapers? Do we need formula? And she's like, I really don't know yet. And I'm like,
Oh, man.
Oh, wow.
how do you know how to know? Like, I'm gonna put my shoes on and go to Walmart right now at 10 o'clock at night and get these things. And she's like, we'll figure it out tomorrow. They have some things. I'm like,
That's
okay.
wild.
The things she meant was, like, 3 bags of random junk from whoever's house they were living at, like trash bags. I don't think we kept any of it. But
So that was Sammy and...
Sammy and Leslie.
Yeah.
And so they brought them to us, and Leslie was asleep. It was the cutest thing. They brought her in a little car seat and just set her on the couch, and they were like, all right, bye. She was just, like, asleep the whole time. So she wakes up in a new house, people all around her, and we're like, hi.
And then how soon after did you get Jenny?
Yeah, so we got them in August. We found out that their birth mom was pregnant in October. Yes, in October, because at their 1st and 2nd birthday party, we told the whole family, like, we're having a baby. And they told us when they called that she was only, like, 3 or 4 months pregnant, so, like, we'll have time to get used to these new 2, and, like, she's due in, like, April or May sometime. And we're like, okay, we can handle that. And then in November, we get a call, and they're like, hey, we just randomly saw her riding her bike down the street. Oh, his sister calls, JD's sister, and she's like, we think we just saw the girl's birth mom. She's, like, big pregnant. And we're like, what do you mean? And they're like, yeah, no, she has, like, a belly. And we're like, okay, weird, but all right. And then the caseworker, like, 2 weeks later at court was like, yeah, so we saw her, we stopped her, we talked to her. She's a little bit further along than we thought. And I'm
Wow.
like, clearly.
And in your head, you're just thinking, we just got 2.
Yeah.
Like, how are we going to do triplets?
And
now?
even then, that was like, she's like 7 months. So it'll probably be like January sometime or whatever. I'm like, okay. So then we actually had 1 visitation with her the entire time we had the girls in foster care. And I was like, so when are you due? Like, have you had any prenatal care? Because at this time we're told that she's homeless. It's like a whole thing. And she's like, yeah, I'm due December 31st. And I was like, we have like a month. Like, okay. So we go home, we're like rearranging the nursery, like moving Leslie to like a big kid bed. She's not potty trained. Sam is delayed. So we've basically got like a baby and an infant, and we're about to take an actual infant. And then literally we had there's a whole thing of JD being sick and coming home, and he almost died, and it was a thing. But in between him almost dying and almost dying the second time, we get a notification that our visitation with the mom is canceled again because she went into labor. And so we were like, okay, it's December 9th. She wasn't due until the 31st. And then it was like, oh, actually she had her yesterday. I'm like, cool. So what do we do now? And they're like, we'll let you know. Again, like the whole waiting and just like, So we finally picked her up on the 11th and brought her home and never saw birth mom or dad again.
And she's, I mean, so the 3 of them are now completely, wholly yours. What was your adoption day?
Year? April 20, I don't know, it's been so long. It was 20th or 26th of 2017. So it's been 9
And
years.
I love it because Leslie is my Sophie's like bestie.
Yeah.
So she absolutely loves her.
Yeah.
So adoption, God bless you. I am so thankful that is not my journey. So praise the Lord. I appreciate people.
Wild.
I appreciate people that have the heart for that. My cousin, she did that, and especially for people that just, she has special needs kids. All of her kids are special needs. And I'm very thankful that there's people like that. I cannot. My husband would. That is, Lord, okay. Whatever you want. My hands are open. But thank you for sharing that. I wouldn't have even have thought some of the things that you said and how you could even possibly get through that. So we went from adoption to, Natalie, let's talk about IVF.
Okay. So I found out right before we got married, Joe and I got married, that I had something called, I was a pre-mutation carrier for something called Fragile X. I had no clue what that was. It was really random. Now I see the Lord all in it, but I went to just my OB-GYN appointment. She was like, oh, you're about to get married. We should just run some like regular testing on you that we do for women who want to try to get pregnant, just to make sure everything's okay, blah, blah. And so I was like, okay, sure. Why not?
Yeah, and Natalie, just so you know, little drop here. Natalie is a practicing nurse practitioner, and she actually has a clinic, or she's, elite. Is it elite? Yes. Yeah. So she's over that, but medical. Yeah, here we go. Okay, continue.
Yeah. So I was all about it with that background. I was like, let's run the test. So ran that all in. They call me and she's like, hey, I just want to let you know that something abnormal came up. Everything else looked good. You've got this genetic condition and it's called Fragile X. She goes, but you don't have Fragile X. You're like a pre-mutation carrier, meaning that like one of your X chromosomes looks a little funky. That's like the best way that I can explain it.
And we go home and write in our journal.
I am fragile. Later you can Google.
I am fragile.
So she's like, we're going to send you to Baylor and you're going to talk to a geneticist and blah, blah, blah. So at that time Joe and I were already engaged. So we went and
how did that conversation go? Hey babe, just so you know, I got to put a ring on a fragile one.
I'm a little genetically off. So we went.
He knew that going in, so I mean,
he loved it. He was like, let's go. So we went, and that was a difficult visit because, when you're in the medical field, and I appreciate people in the medical field who are genuine, not to the point of where like you have no bedside manner, but to the point where you're like just real, and you're vulnerable with what the diagnosis or what things look like with someone. It just makes the way you can take it so much better. So she was very real with us, and she said, a lot of this has to do with just passed down from, mom can be a carrier, mom passes it down. Usually women are the carrier. It mostly affects males. Like if mom has the male child, but then also because the women are the carriers, as it passes down, it can be affected. And she said, well, because you don't have like the full syndrome, and the full syndrome is like almost similar to autism, but it's much more severe in that there's seizures, there's developmental delays, there's maybe inability to walk, and blindness. It's like a whole caveat that they really don't honestly understand what the whole issue is. So she's like, because you're not full carrier, you're just a premutated carrier, your problem is going to be that you're going to have diminished ovarian reserve. And she said, so it may be that you just have trouble getting pregnant. So we were like, okay, well, we'll just take it. Like, at that point, we were like, look, we're just engaged. Like, we're not married yet. We're not at that step yet. But so we kind of took it with like, okay, well, now we're walking. We know what we're walking into, but we're just gonna walk into it eyes wide open and trust in the Lord. And we left it at that. And honestly, at that point, like I said, that wasn't where that was going to lead us. Was not at the forefront of our mind. So fast forward to we get married 2020 and then 2021, and we're like, let's try to have a baby. And as soon as we got married, we wanted to start, that was our plan, was like, we want to start having kids. And so it had been a whole year and nothing had happened. And so I was like, well, let's just go. Me being medical, I was like, I'm going to go to the doctor. I just want to get some tests run. So I went and they ran the tests and they were, tracked all the things. And you probably remember all that too. It was like the ovulation and blah, blah. And so they were like, well, you're not ovulating. You don't ovulate. So we're going to give you some medicine to help you ovulate. And this is what it's going to do. And let's try this. And a month passed and that didn't work. And then they were like, let's take you back for a hysteroscopy. Let's go look at all of your women parts.
Did you ever feel like a lab rat?
Yeah.
What? So how do you deal with that emotion? I mean, what emotions were going through your head at that moment? It's like, God, I just wanted to have sex with my husband and have a baby. Like, this is what we're supposed to do.
You would think it would be so easy.
Yeah, you're like tracking it.
No, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Like, why is this not?
I mean, but really,
math is a math thing here.
No. I mean, but that's
it was a struggle. I mean, that was, I think for me, just because I have the medical background, it was I had a little bit more peace about it because I knew what to expect, like as the body functions. I kind of was able to like logically process that, but I can see there were times where I was like, okay, I used to call, I would get ultrasounds all the time, even before I was pregnant, to check the lining and all through IVF. And I lovingly called that little ultrasound machine Wanda, because I was like, I'm gonna go see Wanda again. And so it was just trying to find humor in like the little ways. And so we went through all of that, and they were like, you know what? We just don't think that you're ovulating. We don't think that like even helping you induce ovulation, or even doing like I just lost my train of thought. The one where they do ICSI or something, where it's they inject the sperm into you instead of while you have already actively ovulated. We couldn't even. They were like, nope, we don't even think you need that. We think you need to go all the way to IVF. So we were like, okay, that's a lot. And as you know, it's not getting that news, but then also them saying it is $20,000 plus to go through IVF. We were like, okay, Lord. Like, what is the next step here? And my parents are a big part of my life, and they've been a big part of this journey the whole time.
And very generous.
They're very blessed, and they were like, Natalie, we're going to help you. Like, and that in itself was a big blessing, because they came behind us, and they were like, we're just going to help you. We'll back you up. So they helped, part of us get started, and we went one round, and how it goes is they stimulate your ovaries to try to grow big, nice, healthy eggs, and then they go in and they, you get shots for like weeks, multiple times a day. I think at one point I was like 3 shots twice a day. And then once your eggs get nice and healthy, they take them out, and then they go through the process of the artificial insemination with the sperm and to make the baby. To make the embryo. And so we went through the first round, and I didn't even make it to the egg retrieval, is what they call it, because they were like, your eggs aren't growing, nothing's responding, we don't know why, maybe your body's just not on track yet. So we went through one round, and they were like, you're not gonna make it. So thousands of dollars, and every cycle is like a chunk of money. So they're like, well, we can try again. So we're like, okay, Lord, what do we do? And a lot of it was, like you said, it's just kind of being in this waiting. Everything is like, okay, Lord, I know you're in the waiting. I feel like everything is just like, nope, not yet. Nope, you gotta wait. Nope, this didn't work. So it's like, okay, Lord, where, I gotta find you in this, because and I don't know how people go through it without the Lord, because every time that I would look for him, I would find him. He would meet me there in that waiting. And, the whole journey just took my relationship with the Lord to a whole nother level, because growing up in the church, I was always like, I always had this heart of like, I want to please the Lord in everything I do. Like, I always want to please, because this is what I was taught, and this is how I'm supposed to be. And so I don't ever feel like I reached that point in my life that I was like totally and emotionally raw and real with the Lord. And I feel this whole journey brought that out in me, where I was just like, Lord, this is my ugly feeling like about this, and this is how I feel and about this, just raw and real. And it taught me how to be like that with the Lord. So we did another round, and I got all the way to go to egg retrieval, and they were like, we got one egg. You got one egg. That was good. I think they got 3. And they were like, they give you, it's very, very interesting. They give you a report. So they take them, once they get the eggs, they take them, they artificially inseminate them with a sperm, and then they will watch them grow to make sure that they can see that the cells are dividing and formulating like, you know, a normal pregnancy would.
So
But it's amazing.
They just came from pond scum.
Oh. Yeah, no way. No way.
Yeah,
So they call you on day 5, and they're like, hey, we got 3 eggs fertilized. So we'll watch them until day 7. And, you know, at day 7 is when they say that they're capable to be frozen. And then your body gets prepped to transfer them to establish the pregnancy. So we got to day 5, and they're like, we got the 3 fertilized. So we're like, cool, we're going to watch them. We'll call you back tomorrow. Day 6, they're like, hey, 1 didn't make it.
Oh, God.
You got 2. 1 looks real good. The other one, maybe. We'll see. And that day, I remember I came home, and I was just devastated. Came home crying. I went, and at that point we were living with my parents at the time because we were building a house. And so I remember I went to my room, and I pulled the covers over my head, and I was just in the dark crying. And my dad came in, and you know, my dad is, when you see him on the outside, he's very put together, well-mannered, but he's a big teddy bear. So he scooped me up and gave me a big hug, and he was like, he told me it was going to be okay. And when he was telling me that, it felt like I was hearing the voice of the Lord. And he told me, he was like, there's going to be 1. There's going to be 1. And I'm like, okay, and fine. So the next day they call, and they're like, 1 didn't make it, but you got 1. And we're going to freeze it, and it looks good. And, you know, they do all this other testing before they freeze it just to make sure everything's right. So we're going to freeze it. Okay. So the doctor says, Natalie, that's great, but we think that you should probably do another cycle, just because the odds of having 1 don't look very good. The egg looks good based on, it's amazing. The scientist or embryologist grades it. They give it a grade. They say how good the egg looks based, how good the embryo looks based on what they can see microscopically. And so she says, it looks good, but there's some concerns, so I think we should do it again. So we did it again. So, and we did the whole process again. And at that point, we got 4. And only 2 made it at the very end. That we got to day 7, and only 2 made it.
So are we at a total of 3 now?
So we're at a total of 3 now. So we froze those 3, and the doctor said, okay, whenever you're ready, we're going to get your body ready to get you pregnant. So I remember it was October 4th. So they were like, you can decide, because I had that genetic issue, they said you really should consider getting your embryos genetically tested just to make sure that you get the best possibility of pregnancy. And so we did that. And so we got to find out the sex of the 3 embryos that we had. And so that was kind of fun because we were like, okay, Lord, let's just pray about what kind of similar to do you want a boy, do you want a girl? So what do we do first? So we prayed about it, and it was funny. My dad, I keep talking about it, but he was like the Holy Spirit, in a person this whole journey, and he was like, you should do the girl, and we were like, okay, we'll think about it. So it was back and forth, do we do a boy, do we do a girl? So Joe and I decided, and we didn't tell anybody, and we did the transfer, and then they said, okay, you are now pregnant until proven otherwise. So you wait, I think it's 2 weeks that I remember waiting, and every day you're doing progesterone in your buttocks every single day.
Okay,
and
Natalie, hold on. Can we just like walk
Okay,
so first of all,
I was a human pincushion.
okay, so somebody that's considering walking through that, first of all, did you ever feel, I'm just going to say it, did you ever feel broken?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was one of the biggest struggles for me, was just feeling like my body is not doing what God, you said my body was made to do this. You built my body. You built these organs to do this thing, and they're not doing it. But it was all about just turning it back to Him and saying, you're going to do with it what you will. I'm living life in between these two gardens, and the gardens aren't perfect, where the world we're living in is broken, and I realize that there's brokenness, but I realize that you're good, and that your delay is not your denial, and I'm going to stand on this promise that even though I'm broken, or I feel broken, I'm not, because ultimately I was created in your image, and you're perfect, and you made me to be perfect, and so there will be something beautiful out of this, and that's just kind of what I kept telling myself. And there's a song, and it's called "The Story I'll Tell," and by
Naomi.
Oh,
Naomi, yes.
that song got me through it. Every time I felt like I was broken, every time I felt like I couldn't see a way out, that was the song that I was just like, Lord, this is gonna, whatever this looks like, this is gonna be the story that I'm gonna tell.
Yeah.
This will be my testimony. However this ends, this will be my testimony, and it'll be good because you're faithful. So so transferred Olivia, who's now Olivia, and had her, and she was a miracle baby in herself.
She's a lot.
She's a lot. Her personality is like 3 children in one.
That girl, she is fire.
She's fire. She's amazing. She's perfect. So what really hit me was just going through all of that and then seeing the faithfulness of the Lord, because when I got pregnant, I had a subchorionic hemorrhage that we thought I was miscarrying, so had to go to the doctor for that. And then at one point they thought that they lost one of my ovaries because when they stimulate your ovaries, they grow. And so at one point during the IVF cycle, they were like, we can't find your right ovary, Natalie. So I had to go. I was like, what? So we had Olivia, and then we were like, we want to have, we had those 2 embryos frozen. Well, last year we decided that we were going to do it again. So we went to do the process. They said, you really should, we're going to test them. They do some kind of special testing before they defreeze them. And, well, during all that, they were like, we can't transfer these 2 embryos because they didn't make it, basically, was what we were told. That, I think, was where I learned the most about how to be raw and real with the Lord. Because it was like, I had this expectation of like, okay, we're going through this again. And I almost feel like it hit me harder than walking through IVF, the very beginning, because I was like, okay, I've got this. I know what this looks like. I know how this is going to go, Lord. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, there's no way. They didn't survive the testing and the transferring, and we can't do it. And bringing that to the Lord was the most raw and real that I've ever been. And I looked back, as we were getting ready for this podcast, I was laughing because I was looking back through, I took videos and documented everything. But I looked back and I took a video of myself, and I'm basically talking to myself in the video, and I'm saying, the Lord is faithful, and I know no matter how this journey ends, and this was at the very beginning, no matter how this journey ends, I know that the Lord will write something beautiful out of this. And this was right after we were told we got 1 embryo, the second round that was successful. And in that video, I told my mom, I was like, I feel like I kind of prophesied to myself in a way that I didn't really realize. Because in that video, I was like, we got 1 embryo and it's healthy. and I'm gonna call her girl. And because I know that a girl can, only a girl can make it through this. And I was like, I know it's a girl. But I was like, and it's gonna be the one, and I'm gonna be happy that the Lord has given me this one. And that's how I left it. And I was like, when I looked back at it yesterday, I was like, God, there you were, like, there you were preparing my heart for what, like, the ultimate end of, like, our child attempting years would be. Like, you were there in those moments where I didn't see you yet, but now I look back and I'm like, it just reminds me that, like, he's just so faithful. And I just had to submit everything to him at every single moment, because it was just, you have to take it. Anybody walking through or considering going through IVF, and you just have to take it one day at a time. You have to deal with, one day I'm doing this, and then the next day, Lord, we're going to do this, and the next day, Lord, we're doing this. And because you end up feeling like you just can feel so many different things with going through it. So yeah.
So that's, I mean, whenever you said that, one thing at a time, the scripture that came to my mind is, don't worry about tomorrow. And I think whenever he said, and that's very simple and it's very elementary, but there's so much truth in that. Just hearing how many times you had to go through so many different processes just to try to get one. If you are an IVF mom, bless you. Because, like, wow. Wow, that's incredible. So, thank you for sharing that. Okay. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, let's go back 12 and a half years. It's like, where do I start? No, we got married, and then about a year later, I got pregnant. And I don't even know if we were really planning. We probably were planning it. We weren't doing anything, I guess, to prevent it, I should say. And
practice makes perfect. Practice is good.
Yeah.
Practice is good.
Yes. So then found out I was pregnant, and I was early. I mean, a couple weeks, and I was already, like, wanting to post it, ready to share it. And I remember we went on a vacation to Yogi Bear, actually, with Mandy and Kenny, and a few other people, I think. And then Kenny actually took our announcement pictures while we were there. And I remember we were going to post them, and we did when we got back. And then I went in for my 10-week checkup, and then the ultrasound tech was being very iffy. And they never wanted to say anything, but I was also just calm, because I was like, yeah, and I was, you're just hopeful, and you're just like, until they say something, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
But she's also in that position where she can't tell me anything. She has to get the doctor. The doctor wasn't there. So she was like, I'll send this to the doctor, and then I'll let her call you. And I was like, okay. But then I'm like leaving, you're freaking out already, but then it was fine. So I go home, and basically the doctor calls, and she just says, basically you're just measuring 8 weeks, not 10 weeks. And I was like, okay, so I'm just measuring ahead when I'm whatever. And then went to bed that night. And then, woke up in a pile of blood. And then called the doctor. And I mean, I was only 23.
Yeah, you were so young.
And now I think of it as like our young adults. And I think of that age, and I'm like, some of them are not. I mean, like, thinking of them having, it's just mind-blowing to me that I was so young. But I was 23. But then I called the doctor. We went up there, and I was with the Texas Women's. So it was like my appointments were in Angleton, but I had to go to Houston for the hospital. Went to see her, and we go in, and, you're sitting on the thing. She's checking everything. She tried to give me a pill, different way, to stop the bleeding and to hopefully save the pregnancy. Then she ends up telling me, you're bleeding too much, this isn't going to work. And she was like, we can try something else, but I don't really have anything else to try really accept that pill, and that wasn't working. And I remember looking at her and I was like, so you're telling me I'm gonna have a miscarriage? And she looked at me and she was just like, yeah, that's what I'm telling you. And it was just
So
very
cold.
Yes. And
this was your first pregnancy.
and I remember having to go get blood work, and I remember walking down that hallway. That was the longest hallway I've ever walked down. And I don't remember everything I thought. I think I was just, thought I was in a dream. I don't know what I thought, because it was just the longest hallway.
This isn't happening.
Yeah, and the lady takes my blood. We go back, and I go back in there, and then, you know, the doctor's telling us the next steps. And because I hadn't passed the baby, that's all it's been, it's just blood. So the baby just didn't have a heartbeat, but the baby was still there. And so she really tried to push a D&C on me. And, which basically that's just, you go in the room and they're going to basically take it out for you. And thank goodness for supportive husbands in those moments, because he stood his ground and he said no. He said, we're going to let God do what he wants to do. And so he was like, we're going home. And that doctor was like, well, if you go home and you have to go get a D&C, you're going to have somebody else do it and it's not going to be me. You won't know the doctor. Like, just pushing it. And he was like, that's fine. We'll have somebody else do it. We go home, and then I remember going to my mom's house, actually, just because I didn't know what was going on. So I was at my mom's house.
Of course.
You know, like Natalie, my dad was also the teddy bear. Like, I needed my parents. And I remember being there, and then I remember the bleeding continued. And my mother-in-law was a midwife, she still, of course, knows everything still. And we had her come over because they were like, you're going to feel a lot of cramping. You're going to have a lot more bleeding because you're basically going to pass it out. And I was like, okay. And I remember going to the bathroom. And I don't want to get too graphic, but
It's okay.
I mean, it's what it is.
Yeah, we warned him.
Went to the bathroom. I felt a big push on it and caught it, and not the baby specifically, but the sac. And I remember carrying it out, and I even asked my mother-in-law, and she was like, no, you already passed the baby. And then after that, you know, you go up for your follow-ups, whatever. And then after that, you're already like, your heart is already set to have a kid. That I was like, we're going to keep trying. And so then you have to wait the certain amount of weeks before anything, like to make sure your cycle's right and everything. And I did that. And then we started trying again. And I wasn't getting pregnant. And then I even tried, I took it in my own hands. Like, looking back on it, it was just in my own hands. I looked up every method it was to get pregnant, even what to do after you do it that would help, or what to do, what to eat, everything, to the point of you're making yourself just go crazy on like stressing yourself out, and and then every time your period rolls around, you take the test and you're so hopeful. And because of, I told somebody the story the other day, I was talking to them, and I think looking back, even being a young age, I think it was just so naive, even in my walk with God, in a sense, that I just was thinking, like, very naive in the fact of, like, that wouldn't have happened to me. But it did. And in that year, because I didn't get pregnant until another year, but I do remember, like, going through those motions of, like, control and, like, anything we could to get pregnant. And I remember even, like, going on a cruise, and I brought the pregnancy test. I brought everything to announce it, because I knew, I was like, this is going to be it, because we're going on, like, just in my own hands, my own idea, my own plan, my own schedule. Nothing was happening as far as, like, getting pregnant. And so then after that, I started thinking, because part of my testimony of myself is I'm adopted. And so I went down that road of, like, maybe I'm not getting pregnant because we're supposed to adopt. Like, I was adopted, and Joey was not that he's not for it, but it was just in that moment, he's like, I don't feel like that's what we're supposed to be doing. I think, you know, he's also the level-headed one. Okay. And so then I think I got to a point of, Well, and even through that year of pregnancy, because that's when, I talked to you. That was when you were pregnant with Soph. We had 3 or 4 other people pregnant.
Yeah, by the way, I just want to apologize when I did get pregnant because I was pregnant with the twins.
Mm-hmm.
If I was ever a horrible friend, if I ever complained about pregnancy, I'm like listening to them, because I've heard these stories, and I'm just like, y'all are super.
Okay, but think about the healing of the Lord when you got pregnant with the twins.
Oh my God.
And being able to be there and be like, no, I'm praying for you.
Good
And that
Lord.
was a moment where I was like, I'm not bitter about praying for her to get pregnant. Mm-hmm. And so the Lord can bring you to a place where even if somebody is ugly about it, which you weren't, you can still be like, it's okay. They're human. You know? So.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay.
And on your side, there's nothing to be sorry for.
I know. Not even with these 2 beautiful girls.
Yeah. No. Anyway, I'm thinking, okay, yeah. Okay.
Oh, but in my own world, it was you're happy for them. Kind of like you're happy for them, but you're also like,
when was it my turn?
And in that sense too, it's like, when is my turn again? Or
what do I do?
like that would have been me. Like that was the same kind of timeline. Like, oh, it would have been my baby shower right now. Or it would have been, we're getting close to bringing this baby home. And you go through.
So how do you deal with that?
It's a process. Everyone's going to deal with it differently. That's the thing. I think I dealt with it, and like I said, I think I had to deal with my naive thoughts too, of just being real. Like, I think back then, I wasn't as real that I should have been. Or even with God, like Natalie said, in the sense of everyone knew that I had had a miscarriage, and of course there was moments where people knew I wasn't fine. But there were moments where I made it like I was fine. Mm-hmm. But sometimes that's more just because you don't want to draw it out or deal with it or be, and that's, I've told other people this before too, is this kind of situation, it's not talked about enough. And then I think you hide behind that because there's guilt. There's, what did I do that made that happen? Because you were just okay. And then, everything. It's all kinds of feelings. And then it's you, in those moments, I think I knew people had miscarriage. I know that. Our youth pastor had one when we were younger. But I think it's just you hide behind the guilt. You hide behind and not even embarrassment, but kind of just that's what you wanted and it didn't happen. And then certain moments it is how do you tell people God is still good?
Yeah.
When that happened to you and they've seen you live your life following him and that he is good. But I think on the flip side, it's how you came out of it is how they're going to see he's good. And that was my thing too. I think it's to remind everybody, you're not alone. That's part of it too, is you feel like you were the only one when you're not. And so then we had talked about adoption, and then actually my sister-in-law, Kendall, had gotten pregnant, and she had a miscarriage. And then within a month or 2 after her miscarriage, she was pregnant. And I remember thinking I'm still waiting. Is it ever gonna happen? Is it? And then finally, when I decided to let go of my control of it and actually hand it all over to God and be this is your timeline. This is your, every aspect of my life has been planned by you, even my adoption, everything, from before I was born, you've had every single detail of my life planned out. Why would I not trust you with this? And I think not that when I realized that, but when I just took a hold of that and really gave it to him, that I was just okay, we're just gonna live life. Would you still think about it? It's still in your mind. You're not gonna just be we're living life. But when I let go of all the restrictions of what do I do? What do I need? All the things. And all the things doctors tell you, everything you can research. When I let go of all that and finally just gave it to God. Then a couple months later, I was pregnant. And of course, there's still the fear that comes in. And I actually remember telling Joey, I was like, are we gonna like announce this one like the last time? As early as we did. And he was like, yeah, because no matter what happens with this baby's still God's. Mm-hmm. Like, no matter what. Just like the other one. And I was like, okay.
There's a reason his dad was my childhood, like, Sunday school teacher. Okay.
And so, then we announced it, and then heard the heartbeat, went through the whole thing, and we got past it. And that was the thing, too. It's like, kind of like those milestones again where, okay, we're at 8 weeks. Okay, we got past 10 weeks. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're out the clear. And then it's like the first trimester is like 13 weeks. Get past that. And then it was, but you're also on the flip side still trying to enjoy it and soak it in. But then you're remembering everything.
Yeah.
But then going through it all, and then you get to the end, and I went a week over. Which I would have went earlier, but my doctor was old school, and he was like,
we're gonna keep it in.
I will induce you, but only until you go a week after. And I was like, okay, well, it's been a week. This kid's, nothing's happening. And so then he induced me, and then that's the part that I'm gonna cry on. Because I remember having Archer, and they put him in my arms. And I have a picture looking just like this holding him, because I looked down at him, and it was literally God's faithfulness just that was holding. And it was just, I mean, even when I look at him now, it's still that reminder, though, because it was just like, wow, like, you were faithful through the entire thing. Not just like, oh, when I got pregnant with him, he was faithful through the whole thing. And so now he's about to be 11.
And did you, you miscarried after?
No, my first one was a miscarriage.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She now has 2 other ones. So she has a total of 3. She has a total of 3 boys. Yeah, that's your story. And I remember pieces of that, but like you said, I just had my kid, and I'll just very briefly say, Sophie was, whenever Sophie was born, it was hard just because she was very premature. And my immediate, and this is what I'll say, is my immediate reaction was, why? What did I do wrong? Mm-hmm. Like, why did I have to be sick? Why did she have to come early? Why did I have to leave the hospital without my baby? If you go through that, if you have a preemie, that's mine, is I had a preemie. And then, of course, she ended up having epilepsy, which we're walking through right now. I had some really hard news today, but it's okay. We'll be fine. This is not about me. But I will tell you that in that moment, whenever they told us, that she had epilepsy, I remember having a raw moment with the Lord, and I remember saying, I've done everything right. Mm-hmm. And I even said, I went down the list, I tithe, I've done the fasting thing, I married my husband, and I haven't had enough. I'm just like, I'm a good person. Like, I'm on the worship team. Like, why? And I remember just that moment, and having a preemie, and I was in her nursery, everything was set up, and I didn't have her, and I was trying to want to nurse her, and so I had taken her the hat that they give you whenever they're first born, and which Glenia made it into a bowl. So I would smell it, and I would, it would help kind of stimulate my milk, because I was determined to be a nursing mom, because it was the group of friends that I was with at the time. I have loved that you guys have all said, that's just not my journey. That wasn't my journey. And I'm here to tell you, ladies, if you're a young mom that is like struggling, should I nurse? Should I not nurse? Should I have the real diapers? Should I have the fake diapers? Alexa's telling my kids that she needs to go to bed, that they need to go to bed. Should I have them? Yeah. Should I have the real diapers? Should I have the fake diapers? Do I use sunscreen? Do I not? Just ask the Lord. Like, submit all those things to the Lord, and submit your whys. Like, throw him the whys. Throw him the, because this should have happened. Like, God's big enough to take and handle your why, which this last one, I'm just going to prepare you. Nay. Me.
I'm like, where do I start? I guess since there might be people that don't know me, I'll say, I'm married. I have a almost 12-year-old and I have a 6-year-old. But this testimony starts in February of 2024, so a couple years ago. So we found out we were pregnant with our third child. It was unexpected. We weren't, I'm kind of like, we weren't trying, but we weren't doing anything to prevent it.
Sex is
First
great.
two kids, first 2 kids, totally planned, like you. As soon as we got married, it was like, we'll wait, and then
We did it.
5 minutes.
it takes about, a year to so many months to get in. No,
Let's
like
go.
3 months later, got pregnant. So had our oldest, and then when we were ready to try it again, it took pretty quickly. So, so both of our first 2 were planned. Third one, not so much. So, at the beginning of the pregnancy, everything, seemed fine, seemed normal. Like, it wasn't, it's been said a lot, like, you just don't think you'll go through certain, certain experiences that you see other people go through. You're like, oh, I'll never go through something like that. You just don't think about it. So, so it started off really normal. I don't think there were really any, like, red flags. I think there was a couple of testings that we had at the beginning that were like, oh, the testing's coming back, like, inconclusive, but, like, like, there's nothing to worry about. Like, it's sometimes that happens type of thing. So we're like, okay, whatever. So not until June we went in for his, and we found out it was a boy. So it was a boy. We were expecting in November. So we went in for his anatomy scan. And so, you're just looking at the screen, you're watching, you don't notice, when things are wrong or what, I'm not a tech. I don't see the problems that they see when they're on the screen or whatever. And again, I just want to stress, up to this point, like, we didn't, like, I think there was something in my spirit that kind of knew, like, something might be off, but it wasn't, like, I just didn't think anything much of it. So the tech leaves, the doctor comes out, and he just immediately just starts talking about, like, everything that's wrong. And, like, I just looked at my husband and looked at him, and he was like, has no one told y'all this yet? And we were like, no. And he was like, oh, okay. So they tell us that he's got a heart defect. So, they bring up the little monitor, they show the way the blood's supposed to be flowing in and out of the heart. One of his little valves wasn't closing correctly. Trisomy, is that, am I saying it right? I don't know.
Trisomy, something.
Yeah, either, I can't remember. I know it's 13 or 18, one of those ones. So, so he was going to have some, like, probably autistic, disability, stuff like that. So yeah, he's just, like, spewing out these things, and we're like, what? Like, and he was like, and it's pretty bad. And we were like just completely caught off guard. Like, we didn't realize.
And you were how many weeks?
Any of this. I think it was 21 weeks.
Oh, goodness.
I just, yeah. I think 20 or 21, something like that. So yeah, and so then he kind of ends the conversation with, so he's probably not even going to make it more than 3 days after you have him, like, after he's born. And so we were just like, what? And then here's the kicker. That wasn't the last thing he said. The last thing he said was, if your budget and your morals allow it, you can go to a clinic and get terminated. And I'm just like, why?
Why is that even an option?
I know.
Why
It's
is
just
that
crazy.
even an option?
So I was like, no, that's not. And he was like, okay, okay. It's just, like, so cold. Like, I appreciate the medical system.
Yes.
I do, but sometimes I'm just like, so, he left the room. Me and my husband kind of just sat in there for a second, like, looked at him. We both just started bawling because it just completely caught us off guard. We weren't expecting it at all, what came out of their mouths. And so I just remember looking at my husband and just being like, well, then he's just going to be our miracle child, like, just with so much confidence. And so, obviously we came home, shared the news with a lot of close friends, had everyone praying for us. I fully believed, fully felt like it was God's will for him to be healed on this side of heaven. Like, I really held on to it, and I don't know if it's, like, you look back now and I'm like, was it just pride that I didn't want, whatever. But it just, we just really hit the ground with prayer. And we posted prayers and scriptures all over the house, and we prayed. I think we went back for another appointment in between, and I was just so hopeful that something changed. Like, Lord, let it be a more positive result, like something move in this somehow. Like, we want some kind of good news, Didn't get any good news. Nothing really changed. Still wasn't doing too good. So it was just like, okay, it's okay. We're gonna keep praying. We're gonna keep pushing through. We're gonna keep praying. So kept praying, kept hoping that God's hand would move in the situation. And then by August, I think it was like the beginning of August, we went in for another one. The crazy part is, like, I could have sworn I was still feeling movement. Like, I could have sworn, like, it's just another part that just kind of caught us off guard. Like, I wasn't expecting it at all, but we go in for the appointment. Like I said, there's the tech, they're doing everything. She's just kind of like, who's your doctor? I had to tell her who it was. She was like, okay, I'll be right back. Steps out. Someone else comes in, and so then he tells us, yeah, we can't find a heartbeat anymore. And so
you were how far?
At this point, 28 weeks. Yeah. So at 28 weeks. And so I'm shocked. Like, like, wait, what? And I don't know, we've talked about this a lot too. You just, in those moments, you feel broken. You feel like you did something wrong. I remember having the thought, like, the safest possible place he could be should be inside of my uterus, and like, I couldn't even keep him safe. You know what I mean? Like, because in my mind, I'm like, if I can just get him to delivery, get him to his due date, maybe just get him here. The longer he's baking, like, we'll be good, kind of clinging and holding on to that. And so definitely a lot of, like, yeah, I did something wrong. Like, I'm broken. There's something wrong with my body. Like, why couldn't I have carried him all the way or protected him? Yeah. Like, like, I was supposed to protect him, and I couldn't even do that type of thought. So, I mean, that was probably a really low point for me as far as, like, what was going on through my head. So after that, we're, in the room. They kind of talk you through your options. Like, you can go home, you can pack a bag, come back to the hospital, check in.
I mean, was it that, like, nonchalant, like?
Pretty much. Wow. Yes. Yep. It was, yeah, these are pretty much, these are your two options. We admit you right now. You can go get what you need to get and then come back. So, I mean, I wasn't given the option to, like, just pass naturally at home, which I don't think I would have, because I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so we had family and we had friends that could bring us stuff, so we just chose to just stay at the hospital, get admitted. So basically you go through it all. They basically induce you. I'm assuming the pill you were talking about is probably the same pill I had to take, because it's not oral.
No, it's not.
They gotta take something to help, start delivery, basically, start the process of labor. And so that was hard too, because not even necessarily because it's like you're still having to go through all this pain, but there's like this anticipation and this like dread at the same time, that you're just like, yes, I want to get through this, I want to see him, but then I know what I'm expecting, what's going to happen on the other side. And so,
had you seen like an ultrasound of him?
Yeah. Not so. Yes, but we never went and did, which is like something I regret. Yeah, I wish we would have went and got like a 3D, or even nowadays you can do like the heartbeat there or something like that. I wish we would have done that. So I never did a 3D, because nothing there was nothing evident. And even like when he was born, like he had cleft lip, and so that's something that never showed up on like in any sonograms or anything that we had. So but went through the whole process of labor and delivered him, and thankfully I had friends. My mom was actually out of state, but had friends there that were, you know, there to help support us and kind of walk us through this, and that was a huge blessing for sure. So
His name.
do what? His name, yes. So, and I'll backtrack a little bit. So after the appointment where we found out stuff was wrong, we hadn't named him yet, so we had decided to call him Azel Kendricks, which means greatest champion strengthened by God. And so, and I believe, you know, he is now for sure, but that was definitely something we wanted to hold on to. And names mean a lot for us in our family. That's usually the first thing. What does it mean? What does the name mean? That's because we want it, you know, we want them to grow up living out what their name means. And so so yeah, and so the biggest, I don't want to say the biggest struggle, and like you said, after going through all that, that's, I feel like those are when I've had some of the most surreal conversations with God. When I again, like, I grew up in the church, walking through all this, I think I realized, like, oh, I have an authority issue. Like, I am just a do what you're told, like, you know what I mean? Like, you grow up in the church and you're just like, I just do what I'm told. Like, I don't question authority. I don't, you know, and that affected my view on God, like on how I viewed him. And so having a, like, I'm mad at you conversation with God was like, like, but you can't, you know, like, you can't, that's how you feel, like, you can't, like, you can't have those conversations with him. And no, I did, like, I remember being on my bathroom floor and I'm like, God, I know you're good, I know you can do miracles, like, I read about the impossible things that you have done in the Bible, but, like, why wouldn't you do that for me? Like, it's like, just, you know. And I think that was probably my hardest conversations with him. Is it wasn't that I didn't believe that he could, it wasn't that, you know, and I think I mentioned this in my video, like, where people instantly want to blame God for situations and think, like, well, if God's so good, why would he allow bad things to happen? Because we live in a broken world, like, where there's sin and there's, you know, like, that's why, like, he gives us free will. So unfortunately some people don't do the best things with that. So things are broken. So, but I was like, that's not where my mind went. Like, I'm not saying, God, if you're so good, why would you allow this to happen? It was like, I know you're good. I know you're faithful. I know you can do miracles. But it hurt me so bad to think almost like he didn't care about me enough to want to do it for me, or like, you know what I mean? A lie, obviously, because he works out everything for our good, even even the horrible things like that, right? So it definitely brought me to a place of some of the realest conversations I've ever had with God, some of the most humbling, some of the most ugly, I'm sure, conversations. But I would encourage someone, you know, that he's not afraid of those conversations.
No, he's not.
And I don't know if that's where our mind goes sometimes. We think, like, oh, well, he's going to be mad at us if we tell him we're mad at him. But, like, no, he's not. Like, he's not going to be mad at you. Like, he welcomes those conversations. He wants us to be real with him. He wants us to, in a sense, wrestle it out with him, which it felt like sometimes, you know, because he knows that's where we need to be to get to the place he's taking us, you know, and to humble our hearts and to just realize how good and how his character actually is, you know. And so now I'm pregnant again.
Now you want to stand up? You want to stand up?
If you zoom in, you might be able to see him dancing around, vibing out here. So now I'm pregnant again, and it wasn't planned again, and I'm like, sorry. I hate to say that sometimes because I know it can be hard, and we just heard these testimonies of people who have been trying. But it was a God thing, and I truly feel like, you know, it's just a story of redemption and a story of restoration, and not even just in, like, getting pregnant again, but in my heart, because I think you know, you go through stuff like that and you feel broken. You feel like, you know, the thing my body was created to do and I can't even do it. And I was not like you. I was like, I don't want to do this again. Like, I was scared. Like, you're scared. You're like, I don't. And even now, like, it's.
I mean, to be honest, like,
I was also 23 and who knows what I was doing.
No, I remember praying for you. You know, I remember in the worship room just praying whenever you messaged us on the group meeting and was like, hey, you know, it's not so good. I remember praying for that and just really believing like we're going to see a miracle. Like we're going to actually see a miracle. And then, you know, and it's hard. I mean, like I said, it's not, for me, it's not an infant, you know, but for me, like with Sophie, with her surgery, I'm just going to get it out because if I don't, I'll lose it. So, but like with Sophie, like trying to decide, you know, should she have that surgery where they take out part of her brain? And they told us like all these possibilities of what could happen. And, you know, we ended up deciding that surgery was the best option. And then today, you know, they just shared with us like, you know, the doctor said it was a possibility that there was going to be some, you know, delays and things like that. And of course, like today, I literally just got the call. And so now I'm like, did we mess up? Like, did we mess up something that you could have healed? You know, it's hard just because those things are hard. Like, you're entrusted with these, being a mom, being a human, souls are the one thing that we're going to take with us, you know? And, like, that literally this side of heaven, like, we get to enjoy each other and see each other, and then, you know, one day we'll see fully and clearly. But it's like, you know, holding your child that you thought was supposed to be here, and then seeing your kid that you'd hope one day is going to be fully restored and whole. You know, and those questions go through my mind, like, is she going to be able to drive? Is she going to be able to have a job? Is she going to, you know, those things. And so, why am I talking about this? But anyway, I just,
Can I say I love your testimony? Got you. Like, I heard you say, like, I've asked God why, but you've never come out with an answer. And I think a lot of people, when they hear a testimony, they expect there to be,
like, okay, what's the
I
answer?
Was, but God, and now.
Yeah.
And, like, we don't know. Sometimes we don't get to the and now. Sometimes we don't get the answer.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, like, to see where you are now without an answer. Because I think a lot of people go, well, when I get an answer, when I know why God did this, then I will. And so it's such a foundation of faith and just obedience to the Lord to say, I'm going to keep following you and serving you.
Yeah.
No matter what.
No matter, like, what I understand. And like you said, one day we will know, but we let the unknown affect our life so much here on earth.
Yeah.
And that's where the enemy wants to come in, especially with moms, because we're so emotionally driven. We have an expectation of what our life's going to look like, what our kids are going to be like, what they're going to whatever. And then when that doesn't work out, the enemy's like, well, it's your fault. And you're like, but how? And we don't stop to question, well, how is it my fault? We just go, oh, you're right. You know, it's like, why do we do that to ourselves? But I always just have to remind myself that, like, before my kids ever came to me, and it's the same for birth kids, those kids were the Lord's.
Yeah.
And after they leave me, they will be the Lord's. And, like, He is the greatest parent that they could ever have. And so I could royally mess them up, and the Lord can still redeem it. Like, I've seen it with people. Like, I've seen people grow up, and their parents royally messed it up, and then you look at them, and you're like, wow, you make it to adulthood.
I'm really glad that worked out for you.
And so it's like, okay, when we stop and we just go, okay, Lord, I don't know what's going on right now. And I don't know if my kid will ever meet the expectations that I have. Like, I didn't expect adopting 3 kids that they would have learning disabilities and have autism and have anxiety and, like, all of these things. But God did. Yeah. And, like, no matter how I try to handle it, I still have to just direct them back to Him, because I can't fix those things. I can't heal them. I can't, you know, give them the ability to do all the things that I want them to be able to do. And I don't know what the Lord has a call on their life, like what He's going to do with them. And so I think the enemy tries to get us to forget that God is their parent first and foremost, and He's a good father.
Absolutely.
And
so
that
easy too.
Yeah, it's easy to just forget that and then want to take that control and be like, well, I got to do the thing, or it was me that messed it up and now I got to fix it. And it's like God's sitting there just going,
like, just let me. I've been here. I've been here the whole time.
And it's part of such like you said, sometimes I watched the entire seasons of The Chosen, but there was like so good. But there was one scene, and I'm not gonna say, I don't remember exactly, but Jesus is talking to someone, and that person is asking him, he's like, Lord, why don't you heal me? Like I see
James.
Little James. He's little James. Thank you.
I don't call him Little James. I call him Big Booty James. But
Oh my gosh. I call him Little James.
Yeah, Little
So
James.
he's like, Lord, you see me with this limp, and Big James is big, and he's like, he's something to look at, and I'm the little James, and I'm nothing to look at. Like I've got this limp, and there's nothing bold about me, and he's just being real with the Lord and saying like, why can't you do what I see you doing for everybody else for me?
Or what he was even called to do.
Yeah, you're telling me you're gonna send me out to people,
this person?
and I can really, I can't even walk a mile.
Yeah.
But and that hit me because the way that in that scene they had Jesus respond was like, do you not realize that some people's testimony, like you said, it's like first this, then God's gonna do something, and then we always equate, oh, it's gonna be good and it's gonna be great. But sometimes, like, because we live in this broken world and when there is sin, sometimes it's not always gonna turn out great. And in that, there is an even greater testimony as a Christian when you can turn it around and say, this didn't turn out great. A life was lost. A dream was shattered. I ultimately had to lay whatever it was at the altar. But God is still good.
Yeah.
And even if I don't see it now, I'm going to see it on the other side.
Yeah.
Because like you said, we should focus on the eternal because that's what matters. Like, yes, our kids are an extension and all of that, but we're made to be focused on the eternal and what matters in the eternal. And so I think it's just all a testimony in itself is like, yes, there are things that the Lord has turned and they're beautiful, and you're pregnant again, and that's beautiful in itself, and God gave you more babies, and God gave you healthy babies, and that I believe Sophie will have a testimony, whatever that looks like.
She can sing.
She
can write songs.
And God gave you beautiful girls, and so but there are still some things in us that, yes, didn't turn out the way we wanted to. But in that, the biggest testimony is that you turn around, you face the Lord and say, but you're still good.
Yeah.
And you're still faithful. And I'm still going to hold that and show people that till till the very end.
Yeah, absolutely. Or say, even if, like, I know the verse or the story in Daniel was something I clung to with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego when they were told, you're going to get thrown into the fire if you don't bow down. And they were like, oh, our God will save us. But even if he doesn't,
still good.
So it's like, can you say that? Is it hard to say? Yes.
Absolutely.
But that should be our mindset. Yes. Like, no, don't stop praying for the miracle. Don't stop praying for what you're asking for. But, but not my will, but yours be done, God, right? Even if I don't get it, even if I don't see it, I'm still going to praise you. I'm still going to serve you. I'm still going to worship you. And that, it's hard.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's hard. But that's, I feel like you said, when we focus on the eternal, that's where our mind should be. Like, we're still going to serve you, Lord. We're still going to love you, even if we're not getting what we ask for.
Yeah.
So,
and I think in that, it brings a lot of healing, too.
Oh, yeah,
You need to
absolutely.
focus on that.
And with that, I think, so thank y'all so much for sharing y'all's stories and your testimonies. I have seen, I'm not going to say I've been here long enough, I've seen all of it, but I'm so thankful to have, you guys as really just gems in my life and part of my community. I know not all of us are necessarily in the tightest knit of circles, but I know, whenever there's a struggle, just hearing what you guys have said, it just reminds me no, God is still good. God is still good. And you know what? No, it didn't turn out the way that you were expecting it, but there's still something beautiful in that to be said. And it's also and this is like, I'm saying this for me, don't focus on what you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't focus on what you don't have. Focus on what you do have. If you don't have a kid, do you have a loving community? I'm not even going to say a family, because some of us don't even, there's people that don't even have parents or friends. Do you have a loving community? Well, no, I don't even have a loving community. Okay. Find one. But for me, it's like, don't focus so much on what you don't have, but focus on what you have been given. So I say all that to say thank you so much for being part of this podcast. I love you guys so much. Thank you for sharing some hard stuff, and I hope that our hope is that this blesses you in one way, shape, or form. So just keep showing up.